I'm taking this time as an opportunity to express and share some of the things that are kind of going on currently with myself and kind of my health situation in terms of manic like feelings and mania like symptoms. And I'll get into that in a second, but the fit is I'm out in the garage, I'm about to go on a walk. I need to expel energy. I have a ton of pent up energy essentially. And I describe it as it feels like a child, like a little kid with that type of hyper energy, needing to just run crazy and mess up the house and play with all the toys and just this excess of energy. I feel that as if that's pent up inside of me, like a child with that type of energy needing to come out. That's kind of how I explain some of these symptoms sometimes. And currently over the last, I would say 6 months, I've been in a state of like hypomania, and how I think it is progressing. And it's to a point that I'm expressing some of those fears of mine. And although sometimes it's harder for me to explain one-on-one to some of those around me, because there's an aspect of me not wanting to instill more fear or anxieties into them potentially. So oftentimes I withhold information or I coach myself through some of the things that go on. But I think this is a good medium into being able to help others see into some of my own situations better, instead of me sitting face to face, because ultimately we don't want to see those around us filled with anxiety or fears for us. So I think sometimes it holds me back from bringing forth information about some of the things that go on with my health. But some of the things I'm kind of concerned with right now are, I fear there is an escalation of things that I want to talk about on my shows and in doing my content. I fear there's an escalation of some of the drastic measures that I may take, or some of the things that I might emphasize or really passionately discuss. Very vulnerable things. I wouldn't say things that I would regret, but things that maybe I would say differently in a time of more stability. So the way I would present the information, the way I would present the stories would be different than in a more elevated state, a more manic-like, unstable state of mind. So I have fears around some of that seeping out and some of those stories coming to light when they shouldn't yet, or the way I should present them should be more careful or better thought out, I would say. So those are some concerns. I also have some concerns over, this one is interesting. I've been playing with this idea a little bit lately, but it's the idea that when you are in these elevated states and more manic-like states, you have a vulnerability to what you're consuming. So what you're consuming through the internet, through books, through other people around you, their opinions, has a way of penetrating you and penetrating your mind in a way that it wouldn't normally. So you're a lot more vulnerable. Your guard is down essentially. That filter that filters through information and stories and ideas is altered. So if you're consuming negativity, if you're consuming bad ideas through the internet that maybe wouldn't come out in a normal state of mind, they will come out now as your ideas, and you will present them as your ideas or your opinions, because the filtration system isn't as strong as it should be, or the filtration system for those ideas and whatever insight you're taking in, the filtration system isn't working properly. So I'm nervous and I don't want to be corrupted in a sense through taking information off the internet and then presenting it as in my own words or my own ideas and opinions, because that isn't what I truly stand for. So that, in a sense, as well, is I don't want to have to defend those sort of things or those sort of ideas later on in life, that I was in a certain state while these things were happening that I may have not essentially stood for in its entirety, but because of my lowered or my higher vulnerability and my lowered filtration system, that's what I started consuming, that's what I started presenting. And I don't really have a good way of detaching from consuming that sort of stuff right now. Going to the internet is such a pull and a strong thing that it has on me to know what's going on in the world and to be involved with current day events, to be inside of the loop. I'm really trying to set up things that cut off that tie and cut off that lane and access to acquiring information and acquiring other people's ideas. And this is where I think sometimes hospitalization is important, and not for the sense that you need to be completely out of your mind or completely showing absolute chaos or absolute psychotic episodes, but in the sense that it's a break from consumption of the internet. It's a break from consuming potential negative and very harming ideas and thoughts that you may then start to present as your own. You may then start to go on your own social media and present those ideas and opinions that truly aren't what your morals and core beliefs are. But because that elevated state allows for that vulnerability, you then adopt those things and present them as your own. So I think in a sense a hospital visit can be good for that, in terms of cutting you off from the world for a little bit. When you then stabilize more and you're more grounded, some of the excess energy, some of the excess productivity may be ceased to a certain extent, then maybe being outside of there. But this isn't to say that I'm going to end up there, but this is kind of my thought process and some of my ideas. So there was another thing that I had there, but my mind is just restless. There's just a constant outpouring of ideas and creativity and opinions, and my mind will not shut down. For about a week, I was taking a antipsychotic called olanzapine to help me with sleeping. Last night, I didn't take it and I was able to sleep fine. And I stopped taking it because the olanzapine was giving me severe headaches when I was waking up, as well as this tension that I felt that the medication was fighting my body and fighting my mind. It really felt as if it was fighting me, and I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling that a medication or something is like fighting against how my brain works normally. I don't like that feeling at all. I really, really, really don't like that feeling. So that was happening as well. But tonight, I laid down in bed. I'm not getting tired, and outpouring of more ideas, outpouring of new topics for my show are constantly happening. They aren't slowing down at all, and just no form. There's no tiredness. So I need to expel energy. I need to go for a walk today, but at the same time, I don't want to exacerbate these energetic feelings, and so it's a very complex situation. There's a lot of variables that go into a situation like this. And another problem that I have personally, I think, because of the amount of time and detail I spend and reflection on my mind, and when these things are happening and throughout the years, that I can present fairly well. I can communicate fairly well when these things are happening. So it, in a sense, lowers the guard of other people to potentially not taking the situation as seriously as may be needed for the situation. So I can talk through what's happening. I can express very well, articulate the ideas, the feelings very well, that it may not arise enough fear out of the other person listening or out of the potential doctor, family members. So I think that's an interesting dynamic as well that goes into the situation. But currently, I would say I'm nervous, and that's not a good sign. Me being nervous or me being fearful of something is not a good sign, because I'm not fearful of many things. So that's not good. And the nervousness stems from the duration of time that this has kind of been going on, through 5 to 6 months of hypomania. And I was using drugs I haven't for the last 3 months, but prior to that I was. And I was at a point that was very, very scary. I was at a point that I was essentially pleading to God. I was asking God to save me. I was pleading that I needed some sort of exterior force outside of myself to save me and save the situation that I was currently in. I was having strange moments, and I found I turned a new leaf into something positive, into building something better for myself for the future. But I find that thing that I'm building, the foundation and the outpouring of content, is tied with some feelings and some emotions and some symptoms that can be very, very detrimental and can cause very, very severe health issues that could end me up in hospital for long durations and long recovery time. So that's kind of the thoughts that I'm dealing with, some of the situations, as well as there are times when this goes on of elevated states, elevated emotions, that there is, I call it God talking through me. And it's essentially like, and they're very, 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 like I wouldn't even show them, because they would be, you would look at them as strange, you wouldn't understand, but so passionate, so enthusiastic towards speaking about something, or as if like this raw, pure fire of God's will, of God's message speaking through me sometimes. Those are happening more frequently. So that can be concerning sometimes to some may say. And I'm having more ideas about presenting stuff like that, and presenting those ideas and opinions and emotions and stories on my show. And it's not to say that it would be bad to show some of that stuff or present those stories, but it may not be the right time. I may not be as grounded and as firm where I am in my emotions or my stability where I should be before I go to present some of that stuff. So it's of concern in that manner. But I think it was good. I think I needed to get some of these ideas out. I think I need to make the level of concern more aware, raise my concerns, maybe in a more severe, drastic way, to those closest to me, to those in my circle who look after my health, so that things don't get worse, that things don't end up in a very, very negative, drastic situation. But as well, I need to continue doing the right things for myself, which is getting sleep, getting as much sleep as possible, taking medication when needed, and trying to become more stable. And so the two main things that I need to do is cut my access from technology and consuming the internet and consuming these ideas that exacerbate some of these feelings and emotions, as well as taking medication to sleep when needed. But my two caveats to those 2 points would be the medication. I'm getting very, very bad headaches waking up. I'm having nightmares from the medications, and I feel my brain and body fighting itself due to the medications, as well as in terms of cutting myself off from my computer, my phone, and the internet. It is hard to do considering I'm off work currently. I have an excess of time on my hands. I sit around for most of my day, or I'm in the house, so I'm not filling my day. I'm filling my day with being on the internet, with being on the computer, and there's no real way to completely sever that tie to that. So those two situations I need to figure out some sort of solution to. But in me doing these videos, if I post this at some time, it's essentially, I'm trying to bring forth education. I'm trying to bring forth insight to not only people who deal with this for themselves, but family members and healthcare practitioners, to better understand the diagnosis, to better understand the symptoms and things that go on and how they may portray themselves. So in a sense, this is me talking to my younger self. This is me talking to my family. This is me talking to doctors, family members of patients, and people with similar lived experiences. But it's also a way for me to get a lot of this off my chest, for me to communicate this, because I think I need outlets when I have this excess of energy, when I have this excess of inspiration and elevated states of emotion. I need outlets to express, so that doesn't get pent up inside of me and implode on myself in negative lights. So that's essentially why I'm spreading this message and talking about this stuff right now. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else. I think that may be all. I'm gonna go for a walk, see if anything else comes to mind, and then maybe I'll sit down at the end of my walk and do another video and express anything else that came up on the walk. So we'll see. Took indoors. It's Canada. Or sometimes if paranoia sets in, that's when you may start to stop trusting family members. You may start to stop trusting doctors, or even yourself, what's best for yourself. So when that happens, that's a dangerous situation, because then not only can you stop trusting those around you and think whatever you may think about them, that maybe they're not working in your best interest, or they have other agendas, then paranoia can lead to delusions, hallucinations, and onwards into worse and worse symptoms. So I think catching this sort of thing before it leads to worse situations is important. But yeah, so where does that leave me? And also, I don't think my eyes are too bad right now. Some days it's really bad. Some days the eyes become really noticeable. Your eyes look as if you've taken drugs, even though you haven't. And it becomes very, very noticeable. There's also a thing that you can look at as like a metric for maybe some of my symptoms, is like, look at the amount of content output I've put out in the last month, the amount of hours, the amount of videos, the amount of producing that I'm producing can be an example for kind of what's going on. And another way I would like to describe some of the feelings is sometimes if you ever want to just scream, and maybe this is an uncommon feeling to, maybe most people don't get this feeling sometimes, but it's a feeling that you just want to completely scream as loud as possible, or sing like nobody's watching, dance like nobody's watching, that feeling of absolute expression, absolute freedom. That's like a strong feeling. But it's also I'm grappling with, because I'm so productive, because I'm getting so much done, because I'm building the foundation of a show and a true path forward that I see in life, or a true path filled with purpose and meaning. Sometimes it's hard to want to stop that progress. It's hard to want to halt some of those things that you're doing, because you're getting so much done, you have all this excitement, you have true love for what you're doing, you have true meaning in what you're doing. So to raise awareness to those around you, to your family, friends, doctors, that there may be potential negative symptoms happening, it may be hard to bring yourself to that sometimes. And sometimes maybe they are hesitant to share some of their thoughts and beliefs towards you because of how you may react. That's a potentiality as well. I think that's the right word, potentiality. Potentiality sounds right. So I think I've brought a lot of aspects, a lot of ideas, a lot of factors in this video, in these videos, to kind of the dynamics and the situation of mania and the situation that it is. It's complex. There's more complexities than just, oh, you're super high one day and then you're super depressed, and then this flip-flopping of moods, and there's a lot more complexities and variables that go into mental health, that go into the situations, and I'm here to express those. I'm here to dissect those, and I'm here to voice those variables and those discrepancies, so it's a more consumable message and a more consumable narrative of what goes on. But I think it's important that I take care of myself as well in doing so. I can't help anyone else if I'm not stable, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not doing the right things for myself. So it's important that I keep that in mind, that I don't get lost in the process, or lost or caught up in the excitement of building something and doing something that I'm really enjoying and loving, and that at the back end of that I am destroying my health, or the potential to destroy my health and end up sick is lingering there, and to willingly ignore it because I'm doing something good, I think would be dangerous and is dangerous. So I'm trying to avoid that. There's a internal conflict, there's an internal war going on, and I'm trying to talk through it. I'm trying to express that inner conflict with some of these problems to help bring light and a better understanding to them. Not only for myself, not only for those closest to me, but to anyone else who may benefit from it as well. So that's going to be the video, kind of just an update on what it's like dealing with mania, what it's like dealing with some of the negative side effects of medication, what it's like to internally reflect on some of these situations and feelings and emotions, and some of the difficulties of considering what the best approaches are to deal with them and help yourself, or the potential to go to hospital, some of the negative side effects or the negative situations of going to hospital or not going. So I think I added a lot of good detail and a lot of good messages to this, I would say, considering it is it's about 5 a.m. and I haven't slept. So considering that, but I went on a nice long walk. I think the walk calmed me down a lot, but I need to end this. So goodbye, everybody.